right, everybody. Welcome back to Candy Bar Creepshow. It is episode 5, the Valentine's Day special version of Candy Bar Creepshow. I am your host, as always, Brandon Anthony Tobatto, and welcome back to the program. You know, it's been such a crazy 2024 already. We're getting ready for the new baby. She's due sometime in early April. April 6th is technically the due date, but Isabella came 2 weeks early. So I'm thinking it's either going to be somewhere around like March, 20th, 21st, 22nd. Easter is on March 27th this year, so that would be very cool if she comes on Easter, in my opinion. That would be very, very cool. But either way, it's been hectic. It's been busy, getting remonetized here on TobattoVision on YouTube, getting all kinds of chores and doing the general, what do they call it? They call it nesting, I think. Getting the house ready, baby-proofing it, baby-proofing the corners of tables and stuff, getting the crib put back together, buying baby clothes, executing the baby shower, all that good, fun jazz. It's just been hectic. But hectic isn't always a bad thing. Here on TobattoVision, I like to maintain a semi-regular level of hecticness at all times. I think it sort of keeps things moving, keeps things interesting, and keeps things from getting stale, as they say, at least on my end, creatively. That's why I love doing these Candy Bar Creepshow podcast episodes. They're sort of long form, or at least longer than my usual episodes, or my usual videos, I should say, like the Just a Thought videos, my typical essays. These usually run between 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a little bit longer. I just like doing them. And last month, we did my top 10 favorite zombie movies. That was episode 4 of the podcast, and I really think I found my groove, I should say, for the podcast. Well, technically it was supposed to be January, but the episode ended up coming out on my birthday, which was February 2nd, because I had an export error in Premiere Pro, so the episode didn't release on January 30th like it was supposed to. It came out in February. So there's 2 episodes in February, but this episode, ladies and gentlemen, and excuse my rambling, you guys know me, I like to ramble incessantly, but this episode is all about Valentine's Day. So without further ado, welcome back to Candy Bar Creepshow. All right. So I have a question for you. Before we really dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I want to know, what exactly is Valentine's Day horror? What is Valentine horror? Valentine horror refers to a subgenre of horror movies that are centered around Valentine's Day. These films often blend elements of romance, slasher, and psychological horror, leveraging the theme of love, whether it be unrequited, lost, or twisted, to craft their narratives. The juxtaposition of romance and horror creates a unique tension, as the typically joyous and loving themes of Valentine's Day are subverted with fear, suspense, and often gore. Some common tropes in Valentine horror movies include a killer targeting couples, twisted love stories that turn deadly, and supernatural occurrences linked to love or desire. These movies can range from high-intensity slashers, where a masked killer might prey upon unsuspecting lovers, to psychological thrillers that explore the darker sides of love and obsession. A classic example of Valentine horror is, of course, 1981's My Bloody Valentine, which has become a cult classic within the horror genre overall. The film revolves around a small town haunted by a Valentine's Day tragedy, with a minor returning to exact revenge during the Valentine's Day dance. Its blend of holiday-themed horror set a precedent for how Valentine's Day could serve as a backdrop for terror and suspense, influencing other films in the genre. While not as populated as other holiday-themed horror subgenres like Christmas horror, Valentine's horror offers a unique twist by playing on the vulnerabilities and expectations associated with love and romance, thereby creating an intriguing and unsettling cinematic experience. So when it comes to Valentine horror movies, there's not really a huge list of movies to choose from. At least when you compare them to the likes of Christmas movies, or even to a very lesser extent, Thanksgiving horror movies. And there's not really a lot of Thanksgiving horror movies as it is, but when you compare them to the amount of Valentine's Day horror movies out there, you really see how much Valentine's Day horror is really dwarfed by every other kind of holiday horror movie genre out there. I guess except for like lesser extent stuff like April Fool's and Mother's Day, maybe even Easter. I don't know. I guess we'll dive into that next month. But I feel like Valentine's Day, there's just not much to choose from. But the ones that there are available are pretty good, pretty intense, pretty bold, pretty solid, pretty gargantuan. Stuff like My Bloody Valentine, Valentine, one of my personal favorite slashers ever made, and you know it's true. Stuff like that. But again, there's not many, but the few that stick out really stick out. So before we really dive into the stew of this episode, I already used meat and potatoes, but before we dive into the stew and eat the contents of the episode, I kind of like that. That kind of works. Before we dive into the stew and eat the contents of the episode, let's run through a list, a plethora of the available Valentine's Day horror movies that I know about that are really in the zeitgeist, I guess you could say, of Valentine's Day horror. So let's dive in. My Bloody Valentine, 1981. This classic slasher film is set in a small mining town with a dark past. 20 years after a Valentine's Day tragedy, a killer in a miner's outfit returns to haunt the town's residents, particularly targeting those celebrating the holiday. The film is known for its atmospheric setting and has become a cult classic among horror enthusiasts. My Bloody Valentine 3D, 2009. A remake of the 1981 classic, this film brings the horrifying Valentine's legend back to life in a small town. With the killer once again on the loose, the townsfolk must survive the miner's wrath. The addition of 3D effects aims to immerse the audience further into the suspense and terror. Valentine, 2001. This slasher film revolves around a group of women who start receiving threatening Valentine's Day cards and gifts. As the holiday approaches, they are stalked and murdered by a Cupid-masked killer. The film explores themes of revenge and unrequited love, with a focus on the dark side of romance. Lover's Lane, 1999. Also known as I'm Still Waiting for You, the film tells the story of a hook-handed killer who targets teenagers at Lover's Lane on Valentine's Day. The movie mixes elements of urban legends with the slasher formula, providing a chilling tale of revenge and horror. X-Ray, aka Hospital Massacre, 1982. Though not strictly limited to Valentine's Day, this horror film includes significant elements related to the holiday. It follows a woman who, while visiting a hospital for a routine checkup, becomes trapped and stalked by a killer from her past who has never gotten over a Valentine's Day rejection. The hospital setting adds to the film's eerie atmosphere. Cupid, 2020. This film spins the tale of a scorned high school student who summons a vengeful Cupid to punish those who wronged her before Valentine's Day. This ancient entity takes aim, quite literally, at her bullies, turning the day of love into a nightmare of survival. Valentine Day Z, 2018. A unique twist on the zombie genre set against the backdrop of Valentine's Day, as a virus turns the infected into lovers obsessed with spreading love in the most fatal way possible. Survivors must fend off these affectionate yet deadly zombies. So all of those are good selections. They're all worthy of the Valentine's Day horror titles because they're all pretty much Valentine's Day horror movies, right? But when it comes to my top Valentine's Day horror movies, there's really only two of them. And those of you who know me or have been to my channel before, you probably already know the two selections I'm talking about. But the two movies that I really want to hone into specifically and talk about tonight, at least first, for the first part of this episode, are 2001's Valentine, obviously, and 1981's My Bloody Valentine, the original My Bloody Valentine, not to be confused with the, dare I say so myself, inferior 2009 remake. I know everybody likes that remake except me, but we'll get to that later. For now, I really want to focus on My Bloody Valentine, 1981, and Valentine, 2001, released just 20 years apart, fantastic films that are drenched in atmosphere, spookiness, really crazed killers, really iconic masks, iconic costumes, iconic scenes, lavish death scenes, lavish kills. Great, great stuff. I want to talk about My Bloody Valentine and Valentine. So let's talk about My Bloody Valentine first. Let's dive in. My Bloody Valentine, the 1981 slasher film directed by George Mihalka, is a monumental entry in the horror genre, known for its distinctive mood, atmosphere, and innovative approach to the slasher formula. Set in a small Canadian mining town, the film weaves a rich lore around Valentine's Day, a tragic mining accident, and a vengeful miner named Harry Warden, creating a backdrop filled with dread and suspense. The film's plot centers around a group of young townspeople who decide to hold a Valentine's Day party despite warnings, only to become targets of a mysterious killer in mining gear. The film's mood and atmosphere are significantly enhanced by Paul Zaza's original musical score, which is described as excellently weird, adding a unique auditory experience to the eerie visual narrative. Zaza's work, including the eccentric and spooky Ballad of Harry Warden, plays a pivotal role in setting the film's tone, contributing to its overall creepiness and the hauntingly quaint vibe that permeates throughout the story. Inventiveness is also evident in the film's approach to its kill scenes, which are not only inventive, but executed in a manner that makes them appear exceedingly painful, heightening the sense of horror. The film's lore, deeply intertwined with the mythology of trapped miners, the mine itself, and the figure of Harry Warden, is rich and elaborately crafted, providing a compelling backstory that enhances the narrative's spookiness and intrigue. The twist regarding the killer's identity is carefully constructed as well, revealing a depth to the story that goes beyond typical slasher fare. The revelation that the actual killer isn't Harry Warden, but someone else within the community, does not detract from the plot, but rather enriches it, adding a layer of complexity that feels earned and fitting within the established lore. Often hailed as one of the most atmospheric slasher movies ever made, My Bloody Valentine has been praised for setting a high standard for what a horror film can achieve in terms of mood and setting. Despite this, it has not spawned an extensive franchise, which surprises many fans considering its strong legacy and the impact it has had on the genre overall. It received only one reboot, decades after its original release, leaving some to speculate about the potential for further exploration of its rich narrative world. Overall, My Bloody Valentine is celebrated by many as probably the best Valentine's Day horror movie, notable for its ability to blend gore, suspense, and a deep-seated sense of dread into a well-crafted slasher film that stands the test of time. Its legacy, though not as expansive in sequels or reboots as some of its contemporaries, remains significant for its contributions to the horror genre and its unique take on the slasher narrative. Great movie. My Bloody Valentine 1981 is absolutely fantastic. If you somehow haven't seen that movie ever, watch it. If you haven't seen it in a long time, watch it again. The killer is absolutely fantastic. The rebreather mask that he wears in the film is absolutely insanely creepy. Looks more like a mosquito than a gas mask, if you ask me, because it's not really a gas mask, but we'll get to that later. The next movie I want to talk about on the list is, of course, the aforementioned Valentine from 2001, which is probably my favorite Valentine horror movie above My Bloody Valentine. It's also one of my favorite slashers of all time in general. I think it has a lot of giallo vibe to it, a lot of giallo aspects to it. It really feels to me, in my humble opinion, more so like a giallo film than a run-of-the-mill slasher. It's a whodunit movie. It's a revenge story. It's a slasher, a classical slasher, but it's unlike Scream. It's unlike Urban Legend, unlike I Know What You Did Last Summer, unlike Friday the 13th or Halloween. There's just a mysterious, there's a nihilistic vibe, a mysterious vibe, a whodunit vibe, a very weird, surreal, almost dreamlike quality to 2001's Valentine, and very much giallo-esque. I've said that before, I'll say it again. I know all my friends and colleagues here on YouTube probably disagree with me to this day on it, just like most of you in the audience probably disagree with me on this, but I think Valentine 2001 is sort of an unsung giallo movie. I'll say it. Sort of like Halloween 5. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Halloween 5 is more of a giallo slasher than a classical slasher. Definitely unlike Halloween 4 before it, and the same with this movie. Valentine 2001 is more so a giallo slasher to me than anything else. Don't believe me? Well, maybe this will change your mind. Let's talk about 2001's Valentine. Let's dive in. My love for the 2001 slasher horror movie Valentine stems from its perfect mix of suspense, a gripping story, and an unforgettable killer donned in a black outfit and Cupid mask. Directed by Jamie Banks, this film tells a story of revenge that starts with a Valentine's Day dance rejection, leading to a series of murders executed with creativity and brutality, reminiscent of the golden age of slasher films. The performances by Denise Richards, David Boreanaz, and Mary Shelton add depth, making the fantastical elements feel real and heightening the suspense and emotional stakes of their characters' fates. Moreover, the contemporary soundtrack of Valentine is a significant part of why I adore this film, featuring the likes of Rob Zombie, Orgy, Marilyn Manson, Snake River Conspiracy, and many more. The soundtrack captures the zeitgeist of the early 2000s era, blending the visual intensity on screen with powerful auditory experiences. These songs don't just serve as background music, they're the film's heartbeat, amplifying the tension, dread, and shock moments. My comparison of Valentine to Italian giallo films is based on their shared elements. Giallo films, known for their mix of mystery, thriller, and horror, often feature stylized violence, complex narratives full of twists, and a strong visual style with vivid colors and unique cinematography. Valentine embodies these elements through its stylist execution, elaborate murders, and a mystery that captivates viewers until the final reveal, but in a way that is completely unlike the Scream franchise. Its use of a Cupid-masked killer, whose identity remains a central mystery, and its focus on visually striking deaths, while the killer is wearing black leather gloves, mind you, align with many giallo genre's hallmarks. Furthermore, the film's thematic exploration of past traumas and revenge, alongside aesthetic choices like the aforementioned and very distinctive Cupid mask, plus the thematic use of Valentine's Day itself, mirror the giallo tradition of blending artful horror with psychological depth. Valentine captures my imagination not just as a slasher film, but as a work that embodies the spirit of giallo cinema, from its complex plot and character dynamics to its unforgettable visual and auditory elements. This movie weaves together these aspects into a cohesive, engaging experience, explaining my deep connection to it and offering a unique blend that feels both familiar and entirely new. So what do you think about Valentine 2001? Am I right? Is it a giallo film? Is it more of a giallo slasher than a classical slasher? Do you love the film? Do you hate it? Is it meh? Could you take it or leave it? Let me know in the comments below. On that note, going back towards the My Bloody Valentine discussion, do you prefer the 81 original or the 2009 remake? I'm asking because there seems to be a lot of people who love the 2009 remake, and from what I've gathered in comments and stuff like that, it seems like there's a large group of the fan base who prefers the remake over the original, and that's fine if you do. I just want to know. So let me know in the comments right now while you're watching this. Is Valentine a giallo-ish slasher movie? And also, which version of My Bloody Valentine do you personally prefer and why? Comment below right now and let me know. Right now. But the next thing I want to talk about is 3 more movies that aren't really necessarily Valentine's horror movies, but they're 3 movies that I think are very applicable for the holiday, very worthy of being known as Valentine's Day horror movies or Valentine horror movies, at least for the Valentine's season. Again, they don't really take place in, on, or around Valentine's Day narratively, but they're love stories, they're romancy, they're gothic horror to an extent. There's just a lot of lovey-dovey fluff in them that I feel like quantifies them as Valentine's Day horror movies. In my humble, hoedown opinion, I think these 3 movies qualify as at least Valentine's Day-ish horror movie selections. Now, with that said, the first movie out of these 3 that I want to talk about is the masterpiece, the horror comedy epic from 1998. And of course, I'm talking about the 4th outing of Charles Lee Ray, Bride of Chucky. Let's dive in. Bride of Chucky is a deliciously twisted yet oddly romantic movie that, while not traditionally associated with Valentine's Day, embodies a love story so unique it could only belong to the horror genre. Imagine, if you will, a chilly February evening, the kind where the cold seeps into your bones, making you yearn for warmth and companionship. On such a night, what could be more fitting than snuggling up with your significant other and indulging in a movie that takes the concept of "till death do us part" to an entirely new level? Enter Bride of Chucky, the 4th installment in the iconic Child's Play series, which introduces Tiffany, the equally malevolent counterpart to our beloved pint-sized slasher, Chucky. From the moment Tiffany resurrects Chucky, sewing him back together after the events of Child's Play 3, we're swept into a narrative that's as much a twisted love story as it is a bloody adventure. Their relationship, fraught with manipulation, betrayal, and a peculiar sense of loyalty, challenges our traditional notions of romance, making it the perfect Valentine's watch for those who prefer their love stories with a side of macabre. Imagine the scene. Chucky, with his iconic red hair and devilish grin, not merely a villain, but a Romeo of the grotesque, seeking not just to reclaim his human form, but to share his twisted journey with Tiffany. And Tiffany, not just a damsel in distress, but a Juliet wielding knives, her love for Chucky as deadly as it is deep. Their romance, dark and doomed from the start, still carries an undeniable charm, a testament to the idea that love, in all its forms, is worth fighting for, even if that fight involves a series of hilariously horrific murders. As the plot thickens, with Tiffany and Chucky leaving a trail of bodies in their wake, we're reminded that love can indeed conquer all, but in their case, it conquers sanity, morality, and the very essence of life itself. The movie, with its clever one-liners, gruesome yet imaginative kills, and a storyline that blends horror with dark comedy, invites viewers to question the lengths one would go for love, all the while delivering a viewing experience that's as entertaining as it is eerie. So, this Valentine's Day, why not embrace the unconventional? Forget the cliched romantic comedies, the overplayed love songs, and the predictable plot lines of star-crossed lovers. Instead, let Bride of Chucky remind you that love comes in many forms, some more unconventional than others. After all, what's more romantic than two soulmates wreaking havoc together, bound by an undying and undead love that not even death can do part? In the end, Bride of Chucky isn't just a horror movie, it's a celebration of love's endurance in the face of adversity, societal norms, and yes, even in the face of mortality itself. So, as you watch Tiffany and Chucky navigate their murderous spree, intertwined with moments of genuine affection and loyalty, let it be a reminder that sometimes the most unforgettable love stories are those that dare to defy expectations, those that remind us that even in the darkest of times, love can shine through. And isn't that what Valentine's Day is truly about? Celebrating love in all its glorious and sometimes gory forms. So that was Bride of Chucky. What do you think of Bride of Chucky, and where does it rank for you in the Child's Play spectrum between Child's Play 1, 2, 3, Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Cult of Chucky, the TV show, the remake? Where does Bride of Chucky, aka Child's Play 4, fit in the Child's Play ranking for you personally? And do you, like me, consider it worthy of being a Valentine's Day horror, romance, love story, slasher, horror epic? Because in my opinion, Bride of Chucky fits perfectly tonally with the season of Valentine's Day for February, for Valentine's Day itself, or just in or around the lovey-dovey holiday, as it were. I think it's just, it makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe not to you, but to me. So on that note, I would like to dive into the next film out of these three films that should be worthy of being at least applicable for Valentine's Day, and that is a zombie magnum opus from the early 90s, an unsung masterpiece in the realm of the undead. I'm glad to see its cult following is growing. It's growing too, but it's growing exponentially each and every day, it seems. But it's finally getting the mass recognition it's deserved all these years. I've loved it since the first time I rented it on VHS way back in the day from Videoland, and I love it now. I still need the 4K though. Is there a 4K, or maybe it's just a Blu-ray? Either way, I only have the DVD. I need the Blu-ray or the 4K, if there's even a 4K yet, but of course I'm talking about the 1993 zombie magnum opus, The Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Let's get into it. Let's embark on a journey into the beautifully morbid love story at the heart of The Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Unlike your traditional Valentine's Day flick, this film offers a captivating twist on romance that's anything but ordinary. Picture this, a love so profound and resilient, it defies the very laws of nature, challenging both life and death. This film, released in 1993 and directed by the visionary Brian Yuzna, stands as a testament to the lengths one would go for love, wrapped in the visceral trappings of the undead. The Return of the Living Dead Part 3 is a tale of young lovers, Kurt and Julie, whose passionate relationship takes a turn into the realm of the supernatural. Following Julie's tragic death, Kurt's overwhelming grief drives him to an act of desperation. He resurrects Julie using a mysterious government chemical. But this miracle comes with a curse. Julie returns, not as the girl he once knew, but as a creature of hunger, teetering on the edge of humanity. Their love story evolves into a harrowing struggle for survival, as Kurt endeavors to preserve their bond in the face of an insatiable craving for human brains. This narrative richly combines elements of horror with a deep emotional core, presenting a unique take on the power and pain of love. It delves into the complexity of relationships, exploring the idea that true love is not just about cherishing someone at their best, but also about standing by them at their worst. The film invites viewers to reflect on the sacrifices they would make for love, setting it against a backdrop of chilling scenes and zombie lore and gore. In choosing The Return of the Living Dead Part 3 for a Valentine's Day viewing, one opts for a path less traveled by most. It's a film that boldly declares, even in the darkest of times, that love can illuminate the way. It challenges the conventional, offering a narrative that's as thought-provoking as it is terrifying. So why not venture into the unknown this Valentine's Day? Embrace a love story that transcends the ordinary, where passion persists beyond the grave. It's a poignant reminder that in the end, love is the most powerful force of all, capable of overcoming even the most horrifying of obstacles. Let this film be a beacon for all who believe in the enduring strength of love, proving that sometimes the most unforgettable tales of affection are those that take us by surprise, whisking us away on an extraordinary journey of the heart, a journey hell-bent on finding fresh brains. So that was The Return of the Living Dead Part 3. So what do you think? And where does it rank for you among the Return of the Living Dead movies? Of course, you got 1, 2, 3. Then you got Part 4, which is Necropolis. Then you got Part 5, which is Rave to the Grave. Part 4 and 5 are kind of, they're not good, really, not good. 5 is better than 4, but they're just not good. But yeah, where does Part 3 rank for you in the spectrum of the Return of the Living Dead franchise? And do you think Part 3, like I do, is worthy of being a Valentine's Day horror? Or at least on the spectrum of Valentine's horror? Because it's a love story, it's a romance story, it's dark gothic horror romance. I just feel like it's a horror love story worthy of being in the season of Red. It just seems appropriate and applicable to me. Again, maybe not for you, but it makes sense to me. So let me know in the comments about that. And also, on a side note, I've asked this question before, but I'm going to ask it again here since we're talking about this zombie franchise. I'll probably make a bigger video about this down the road, but out of the first, I guess you could say out of every movie, Return of the Living Dead Part 1, 2, 3, and 5 all have versions of Tarman, correct? Part 3, the version of Tarman in Part 3 is the one with the long black hair who ends up falling down and rips his face apart from his body. It's melted and it reveals like a half skeleton. That's the Tarman of Part 3, for better or for worse. So between the Tarman of Part 1, 2, 3, and 5 kind of sees the return of a classical version of Tarman to an extent. Which Tarman is your favorite? Obviously, mine is still Part 1, but I really think Part 2 is very powerful too, very creepy. Like, I wouldn't want to be locked in that damn sewer opening thing, whatever it is, with that version of Tarman. But the one from Part 3 is pretty good too, and the design of the one from Part 5 is really good too. Part 5 is kind of a cluster of a film, but the Tarman looks and sounds pretty good. Anyways, I'm rambling. This has nothing to do with Valentine's Day. Let's move on to the third movie out of this list of 3 movies that I think should be applicable to be Valentine's Day movies. And that is, of course, the 1993, it's another magnum opus of horror comedy. But I'm talking about the Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis epic that is 1993's Death Becomes Her. Let's dive in. In the effervescent shadows of Hollywood's eternal quest for beauty and immortality lies Death Becomes Her, a film that masterfully entwines the grotesque with the glamorous to craft a narrative brimming with dark humor and poignant observations on vanity, rivalry, and the unyielding pursuit of love. Directed by Robert Zemeckis and released in 1992, this cinematic gem features stellar performances by Meryl Streep, Bruce Willis, and Goldie Hawn, who together bring to life a tale as timeless as it is twisted. As we approach Valentine's Day, a celebration of love in its many forms, Death Becomes Her emerges as an unconventional choice, yet it is precisely its unconventional nature that makes it so compelling. At its core, Death Becomes Her is a labyrinthine love story, albeit one draped in the trappings of black comedy and fantasy. The film orbits around Madeline Ashton, played by Meryl Streep, a fading actress obsessed with youth, and her longtime rival Helen Sharp, played by Goldie Hawn, with Ernest Menville, played by Bruce Willis, a plastic surgeon, caught in their tumultuous vortex. The narrative takes a turn for the surreal when Madeline, in her quest to outshine Helen and reclaim Ernest's affections, discovers a potion promising eternal youth, inadvertently setting the stage for a darkly comedic exploration of love's complexities. This film, with its satirical edge, peels back the veneer of Hollywood's obsession with appearance, using its fantastical elements to underscore the absurdities of vanity and the lengths to which individuals will go to preserve love and beauty. Yet, beneath its surface of cynicism and slapstick lies a deeper commentary on the human condition, the fear of aging, the desperation to remain relevant, and the chaotic dance of relationships that define our existence. As Valentine's Day beckons, inviting us to celebrate love in its myriad expressions, Death Becomes Her offers a refreshing departure from the stale and typical narratives that often dominate the season. It reminds us that love, in all its beauty and tragedy, is not merely about the preservation of happy moments or the denial of time's relentless march. Rather, it's about the acceptance of imperfections, the recognition of our own vanities, and the sometimes absurd lengths we go to for those we care about. So, this Valentine's Day, let Death Becomes Her serve as a mirror reflecting our own follies and fears, even as we laugh at the characters' antics. It's a film that, through its fantastical narrative, invites us to ponder the true essence of love and beauty, reminding us that in the end, it's the imperfections and the struggles that make our relationships all the more real and all the more profound. In celebrating Valentine's Day with Death Becomes Her, we embrace a broader, more inclusive understanding of love, one that acknowledges the bizarre and the beautiful in equal measure, proving that sometimes the most unforgettable love stories are those that dare to dance with darkness. Okay, cool. So those are 3 movies I think should be Valentine's Day horror movies, or at least be applicably should be accepted as Valentine's Day-ish horror movies. Am I right or am I right? Maybe you're just wrong, but I think I'm right. Let me know in the comments if I'm right. Anyways, the next thing I want to move on to in this very special Valentine's Day Candy Bar Creepshow episode 5 of the podcast, I want to go back again. We keep going back to it. I'm going to go back to the My Bloody Valentine franchise, which is really just 2 movies, the first movie and the remake. But I want to go back to that franchise, to that series, and I want to specifically target the topic of the mask seen in the original film and the remake, and why you're wrong about what type of mask the mask seen in the first film is, and why you're right about what type of mask is used in the remake. Because, hint, in the remake it is a gas mask. In the original film it's actually not a gas mask, contrary to popular belief. I covered this in a Just a Thought video about 2 years ago, but it was a very short format video. Let's expand on it a little bit right here and now, on episode 5 of Candy Bar Creepshow, and talk about the Miner's Mask, as seen in both the 1981 original and the 2009 remake. Let's dive in. Delving into the realm of iconic horror film costumes, the Miner's Mask from My Bloody Valentine truly showcases the power of visual storytelling, particularly in the slasher genre. This piece of cinematic attire, present in both the original film and its subsequent remake, merits a closer examination for its understated yet profound impact on horror aesthetics. At first glance, the mask might seem like a simple prop, but its design and the subtle differences between the original and the remake versions reveal a deeper layer of artistic intention. In the original 1981 My Bloody Valentine, the mask adopted by the miner is not just a tool of anonymity, it's a character in its own right. It possesses an almost insect-like appearance, reminiscent of a mosquito, which instinctively evokes a sense of unease and foreboding. This choice of design cleverly plays on primal fears, leveraging the natural aversion humans have to pests and parasites. The mask used in the original film is a creatively modified MSA Chemox rebreather mask, not a gas mask. This particular detail is not just a trivial piece of horror trivia, it's a window into the innovative spirit of filmmakers who worked within the constraints of their time to deliver a visual that was both unique and terrifying. The modification of a real-world object into an instrument of fear underscores the ingenuity required to craft enduring horror symbols. Contrastingly, the remake of My Bloody Valentine from 2009 introduced a new iteration of the Miner's Mask, this time opting for a modified Russian GP7V gas mask. While this choice maintained the essential characteristics of the original, including the insectoid aesthetic, it introduced a layer of modernity and perhaps a nod to a more global context of fear associated with gas masks. Despite these updates, there's a consensus among enthusiasts and critics alike that the original mask's design harbors a more potent eeriness, a sentiment that I highly agree with. Its more pronounced insect-like features tap deeper into the collective unconscious, stirring a more visceral reaction compared to its successor. The discussion around these two masks transcends the mere comparison of props. It opens a dialogue about the evolution of horror iconography and the subtle ways in which design elements can resonate with or diverge from cultural fears over time. The Miner's Mask from My Bloody Valentine, in both its original and remade forms, both stand as chilling reminders of the genre's ability to transform ordinary objects into symbols of terror. Through these masks, we witness not only a reflection of the era's technological and creative landscapes, but also a timeless testament to the power of horror to innovate, disturb, and captivate. So before we wrap things up, there's another very special movie that I saw in theaters at the ripe old age of 7 years old, and I've loved the movie ever since. It's not a Valentine's Day movie. It's sort of like the 3 movies we just talked about, but more on a more intense level, I should say. I'm stuttering and rambling because I'm getting excited because I love talking about this movie. It's so damn good. I'm sure most of you out there in La La Land will agree with me. But it came out in 1994. It takes place on Devil's Night and Halloween. It's a romance, action, horror, love drama story based on a comic book. I'm sure all of you out there in La La Land probably know exactly what property, what IP I'm talking about. And of course, we're talking about 1994's The Crow. Let's dive in and see if The Crow is worthy of being a Valentine's Day season movie. Let's dive in. Right now. Go. The Crow, the 1994 film directed by Alex Proyas, is traditionally seen through the lens of its dark, gothic aesthetic, deeply rooted in themes of revenge and justice. At its core, the story revolves around Eric Draven, brought back to life by a mystical crow, seeking vengeance against those who brutally murdered him and his fiancée, Shelley. While the narrative unfolds on Devil's Night and Halloween, an argument can be made for its perfection as a Valentine's Day movie, emphasizing love's enduring power beyond the confines of life and death. Firstly, the film is anchored by a love story that transcends the physical realm. Eric's motivation for his return from the dead is not solely based on revenge, but driven by an undying love for Shelley. Their love is portrayed as so strong and pure that it breaks the barriers of death itself, showcasing that true love is in fact eternal. This theme resonates with the essence of Valentine's Day, a time dedicated to celebrating love in all its forms. Secondly, The Crow delves into the depths of passion and loyalty, aspects that are central to the most profound romantic relationships. Eric's journey is a testament to the lengths one is willing to go for love, embodying the spirit of devotion and sacrifice. The film illustrates that love is worth fighting for, a message that aligns with the sentiments of Valentine's Day, where lovers express their commitment and dedication to each other. Moreover, the film's visual and narrative style, while dark, serves as a stark contrast to the light and warmth generated by the love between Eric and Shelley. This juxtaposition highlights the power of love to shine through the darkest of times, offering hope and redemption. It is a reminder that even in the face of tragedy and despair, love remains a guiding force, a concept that is at the heart of Valentine's Day celebrations. Finally, The Crow explores themes of healing and resurrection, suggesting that love has the power to heal the deepest wounds. Eric's return serves as a poetic justice, but also as a path to finding peace, suggesting that love can lead to renewal and rebirth. This message is particularly poignant for Valentine's Day, a time when people seek to renew and celebrate their love, making The Crow an unconventional but fitting tribute to the Day of Love. While The Crow might initially seem like an unlikely choice for a Valentine's Day movie due to its setting on Devil's Night and Halloween, its core narrative of undying love, devotion, and the transformative power of love aligns closely with the essence of Valentine's Day. It serves as a compelling reminder that love is not bound by time or death, making it a perfect, albeit unconventional, cinematic celebration of love's enduring power. And did I mention the fact that The Crow is one of the best movies of all time? Alright, dudes and dudettes, that is about all the time I have for this very special episode of Candy Bar Creepshow. I want to thank all of you guys for watching, thank all of you for tuning in, but well, wait a minute. There was actually two other movies I wanted to cover that I haven't talked about yet. Two other very special, I should say, movies that we need to talk about, because they too involve romance, horror, love story, gothic, cathedral, weird, nonsensical, action drama, horror, romance, love story nonsense, based on the same IP as the one we just talked about. And it's not the direct sequel, because the direct sequel was not really a romance story, but part 3 and 4, for better or worse, were? And of course I'm talking about, for those of you who haven't already figured it out, I'm talking about The Crow Salvation and The Crow Wicked Prayer. And while these two movies, somehow, might just qualify for being Valentine's Day applicable movies to watch during Valentine's Day season or on Valentine's Day. So with all the excitement in the world, for posterity's sake and completionist's sake, let's dive into Salvation and Wicked Prayer. I'm not even joking. The Crow's Salvation and The Crow Wicked Prayer, while not reaching the iconic status of the original Crow film or its direct sequel, City of Angels, carves out a unique niche that aligns them surprisingly well with the themes of Valentine's Day. At first glance, these films, steeped in dark fantasy and revenge narratives, might seem far removed from the traditional themes of love and romance associated with Valentine's Day. However, upon closer inspection, they embody a deeply romantic undercurrent that resonates with the essence of the holiday, much like the original film. Both films continue the series' exploration of love transcending the boundary of death. The Crow's Salvation tells the story of a man wrongfully executed, who returns from the grave to avenge his own death and the death of his beloved, embodying the theme of undying love and the lengths one will go to honor it. Similarly, The Crow, Wicked Prayer, offers a tale of resurrection and retribution, driven by a profound love story that motivates the protagonist's journey from death back to the living world. These narratives of love enduring beyond death echo the core sentiments of Valentine's Day: eternal love, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us to our significant others. Moreover, these films, despite their departure from the quality and tone of the original or its direct sequel, manage to convey powerful messages about the strength of the human spirit and the power of love to overcome darkness. The protagonist's quests for vengeance are fueled by love lost, making their journeys deeply personal and emotionally resonant. This emphasis on love as a motivating force, capable of transcending even the most tragic circumstances, aligns them with the spirit of Valentine's Day, a time when we celebrate the strength and resilience of love in all its forms. Furthermore, Valentine's Day is not solely a celebration of romantic love, but also an opportunity to reflect on love's complexity, including its darker and more painful aspects. Salvation and Wicked Prayer delve into these complexities, presenting love as a force that is both beautiful and harrowing, capable of driving individuals to extraordinary lengths. In doing so, they offer a more nuanced and inclusive representation of love, one that acknowledges its power to heal and to hurt, to redeem and to destroy. While The Crow's Salvation and The Crow Wicked Prayer may not align with the conventional imagery and themes of Valentine's Day, they encapsulate the holiday's essence in their exploration of eternal love, sacrifice, and redemption. They remind us that love, in all its forms, is worth celebrating, and that sometimes the most profound expressions of love emerge from the darkest of places. These films, with their darkly romantic narratives, serve as unconventional but perfectly fitting Valentine's Day movies for those who appreciate the deeper and sometimes darker facets of love. All right, dudes and dudettes, that is about all the time we have for Candy Bar Creepshow this go-around. Thank you all for joining me on this very special episode 5, the Valentine's Day special episode, I guess you could say. The best in horror Valentine's Day, or the best in Valentine's Day horror. I think that's what I'm going to call the episode. If you're already watching the episode, then you already know the title, and I should too. But, yeah, what do I know? So anyways, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for hanging out. It's been fun. I'm looking forward to next month's Candy Bar Creep Show. It's going to be called Easter Evils or something like that. It's going to be an Easter-themed episode. That's what I want to do, at least. That's the plan. It'll be in March, because March is Easter this year. March 27th, I believe, is Easter, which is weird because I always associate Easter with April, not March. But I know they flip-flop sometimes. But this year it's going to be in March. So it's bizarre that, we're having Valentine's Day now, then it's going to be St. Patty's Day, then Easter. It's crazy. Back to back to back. And then soon after that, our new baby will be here, which is crazy. So next month we're going to do Easter Evils for Candy Bar Creep Show. At least that's the working title of the episode. I don't know it for sure. And then I think the episode after that, the one for April, but the April episode, I think I'm going to go back and do 10 more of my favorite zombie flicks. The last episode we did of that content, we did 1 through 10. I think I want to do 11 through 20. So my bottom second tier of favorite zombie movies ever. I had a blast making that episode. You guys seemed to enjoy it. It was fun. So I'd like to take you guys on 10 more zombie flicks that I love. That would be the opportune idea for April's episode. And beyond that, I have no idea what to do next. But I guess we'll see when we get there, won't we? And we'll have a new baby on board sooner or later. So thanks everybody for watching. Happy Valentine's Day. Go watch The Crow. Go watch Death Becomes Her. Go watch Bride of Chucky. Go watch Valentine, the epic, ultimate, magnum opus Valentine's Day giallo horror film to end all magnum opus Valentine's Day giallo horror films. It's just fantastic. Go watch Valentines. Long live the Cupid masked killer. That's what I say. Hashtag David Boreanaz. Rock on. Rage, all that jazz. I will see you guys next time. Have a great night. And that's pretty much it. Goodbye. Get out. Fade to black. Go away. Yeah.